Ah, an armored train. A much safer way to navigate the Badlands. Granted, I was the one walking around in the middle of the road with a guitar, so yeah, that might have been on me, but... What the hell is going on back there? Whatever, it'll work itself out. Hi? You want a cookie?
It's cute that y'all think you're the heroes of this little adventure, but you're not.
Heroes? What the hell are you talking?
Welcome to Pandora, kiddos.
Ah! So, sweet kernels of corn, how did that happen? In all seriousness, that's insane. Thank you so much. That's 356 more than I ever thought I'd get. So again, thank you. Here, I brought you some corn and some cookies. They also have corn in them. Now, just a preference, I dumped hours of my life into BL2, and from it, I wound up with, 23 pages of notes. Yeah, I'm gonna have to try to make these as concise as possible, or this video gonna be an hour long, but I will do my best. But holy crap, the story, the gameplay, the replayability, the freaking endgame. God, I got a lot to say and not enough time to say it. On the other hand, one thing it has solidified for me is I'm gonna have to go back and play BL3 in its entirety again. Because to be honest, between Borderlands 1 and now this, yeah, it has heavily warped my perception of the third game. But that's for another time, so without further ado, let's do this. I'm at a loss for words, like genuinely. I'm having trouble even putting my thoughts onto paper because frankly, I don't even know where to start when it comes to the story. So I guess we should start with the man himself. Handsome Jack. Fuck, you are an all-timer villain. Oh my god. From his introduction to the final bow, Jack captivates every moment he gets in the spotlight. If he popped in for a quick echo call, it was stop moving, stop driving, hands off the keyboard, and goddamn listen. Somehow, he manages to be hilarious, cruel, cunning, manic, twisted, and delusional all at the same time in what amounts to a few handfuls of dialogue, and he is unforgettable. What's more, even in his hilarious echo comms that he occasionally pops in and hits you with some random ass comment, he manages to be a very real and very felt threat to the player throughout the game. From his first interactions, he writes you off as another dumb vault hunter that he can easily get rid of. After all, he's been killing them for years with no issue. So he's condescending and unserious, really getting the point across to the player that you are not a threat to him. Not yet, anyway. And as the game progresses, he slowly devolves from just annoyed that you survived him for this long to a no-holds-barred blood feud between the two of you because now you are starting to pose a threat to him rather than the other way around. What adds to Jack so much is multiple times throughout the story, he portrays to the player that he truly believes that he is the hero and you are the villain, but his actions contradict his words. He is a brutal, sadistic killer whose twisted sense of self-worth has convinced him that he truly is the good guy. But at every other turn, you are seeing the horrible atrocities he is partaking in, and it fuels the player to just take his ass out.
Wilhelm and I paid a visit to your little friend Tanis, and we beat her for hours. We ripped it out of her broken fingers. But we let her live because that's what heroes do. They show mercy.
I'm sorry. You did what to who now? To Tanis? Yeah, shotgun up the ass. That's how we're killing you. Shotgun up the ass! He is there to rug pull every moment of triumph or kick a puppy when something just doesn't work out. Handsome Jack is... well, that's just it. He is. He embodies every horrible trait that makes such a captivating villain that you just love to hate. And on top of that, the performance? Oh, chef's kiss. Jack is the driving force of the game, and because of how goofy and unpredictable he can be, nothing feels out of left field when he forces the story along. Jack is easily one of the most enjoyable villains of all time, at least to me. He is everything you want, from his delusions of heroism to his sadistic nature. You really are going to have a hard time topping this type of villain, which is why my perception of the third game is warped so much. But anyway, moving on. Aside from the man himself, the cast of characters Borderlands 2 serves up and beautifully fleshes out, I might add, are utterly fantastic as well. I love the fact that we got to see and learn more about the original Vault Hunters from the first game, as they didn't have all that much of stories there, but here in BL2, you get to learn more about them, see what they've been up to since the events of the first game, and feel that vile hatred for Jack with them because they've been dealing with him longer than you have. As a Mordecai player from BL1, leave the goddamn bird out of it. Oh, that Bloodwing. Man, Jack, why you gotta be such a dick? Outside of that scarring experience, some of my favorite things were just like listening to Lilith attempt to get Roland's attention through the audio logs. That was just a funny as hell nugget of personality for Lilith and Roland for that matter, but I actually have done that mission on every playthrough so far just because it's so funny. And on top of that, they added a few new faces to the roster.
Take me alive, you robotic son bitch!
Also, I am aware that Scooter was in the first game, but him getting a full character intro, and one of the best, I might add, you some bitch. So yeah, him fleshing out more was just kinda nice to see. Honestly, he's probably become one of my favorite characters, but God, does the dude not know how to talk to women. Holy crap.
I will hang myself from my own tombstone if within you I cannot put my bone.
Wow, this is really, could you excuse me for a second? Thanks.
Oh God.
Oh, what'd you think?
I'm gonna go out on a limb here and say she didn't like it. Out of all the new faces, Tina was an instant favorite. My God, she's hilarious. Just listen to how she speaks and interacts with the world around her. And also having a wild left hook of a heartbreaking story when it came to her DLC. Outside of the characters, Borderlands 2 seemed to have stuck with the basic overarching story of stop Jack from opening the vault and kinda lets you choose how you get there in the end. And what I mean is whether if you want to stop all the time and actually help out the other members of Sanctuary or go do all the side missions, you aren't forced to run directly to the story missions, though Jack really makes you want to. The amount of times he pops up with, I don't know, Butt Stallion or a sad violin, still screw you for that one, Jack. But with all these characters of this caliber, it really fleshes out the world and makes it feel way more full of life. Well, as much life as there is in a frozen, arid, technological apocalypse wasteland that Pandora has become. I truly think something that speaks to the greatness of the story as a whole, and we will get more into depth later, is there are a total of 3 playthroughs the game asks you to complete, and none of them feel old or stale at any point. Even by UVHM, my third go around in the game, I was still stopping and listening to Jack character interactions, or just leaving Claptrap in an awkward situation and listening to his whiny pleas for help.
Any more? Kinda just waiting on you to get me out of here. But please, take your time. Can't help but notice you're not getting me out of here. Maybe you're thinking, oh, Claptrap's such a strong and noble paragon of justice and skill. He can get out himself.
Also, just quick and we can move on, Claptrap is definitely at his best in Borderlands 2 in my opinion. He's annoyingly funny, but it never goes too far or gets genuinely annoying, and he probably has some of the best one-liners in the entire series thus far.
Oh, God! They're coming out of the wall spacers!
The what? Okay, I think that was everything I wanted to say about the story. I'm sure I missed quite a bit of stuff, but now, on to the good stuff. Oh, the gameplay of Borderlands 2 just tickles that point in my little bird brain that had me hooked and would not let me go. First off, a great surprise, the guns for the most part retain some of their grit from the first game, which I adored so much. Yes, while a lot of the guns started to lean harder towards BL3 with a more futuristic design and feel, but there were still a lot of them that had that grunge and kick that just feels so nice when you land all 15 pellets of a shotgun to a bandit's face. On top of that, the guns feel far more diverse, partially due to the removal of the proficiency system. Granted, I also played Salvador on my first run, and from what I I understand, he can make almost anything work on the initial normal run, which isn't surprising. Gunzerking is one, super fun, and also super broken. Not complaining, you really got a power fantasy out of Salvador. Speaking of the normal run and what happens thereafter, there is something I want to dive into, so let's get a few of the basics out of the way and then we'll get to that. In terms of setting, Borderlands 2 retained a lot of its barren wasteland Badlands warrior aesthetic, which was very nice. Granted, there are more city hubs, but even then, they don't feel like a sprawling galactic metropolis as they do in BL3. They are very clearly run down and struggling to survive even without Jack mortaring the city every 2 minutes. But the majority of the game takes place in the Outlands, whether that be the frozen tundras of Three Horns Divide or the desert wastelands of the Dust. Every time you venture away from Sanctuary, you feel you are setting off into a lawless and wildly dangerous world, which I adore from an immersion standpoint. I was a bit nervous when I saw how many times I was going away and coming back to Sanctuary, was really hoping it wasn't going to become what my biggest gripe is with BL3, and that was the constant back and forth for one item and an extended bout of dialogue. But no, to my surprise, while you do need to go back to Sanctuary for major quests, some don't. Some will just begin and end in the Badlands and roll you directly into the new story mission, which was awesome. It gave me the freedom to return at any pace, whether it be for side quests, SDU upgrades, or maybe just to chat with Moxie. Anyway, but yeah, even though it presents as a hub-based story mission structure, it never felt like a chore. The few times there were portions of dialogue attached to the mission, they never overstayed their welcome, unlike the third game that, well, honestly, can you shut up? I got shit to do here. Which, just to preference, this is a new realization for me when I went back and tried a couple of things out. I did not realize how many times you went back to the Sanctuary ship, and they just proceeded to talk for 5 minutes before the mission actually popped up. That is not something I noticed on my few playthroughs of Borderlands 3. Yeah, perception's being warped, something fierce out here, so we'll have to get to that at some point. Okay, anyway, that covers the basics. Now here's what I really wanted to dive into. The gameplay itself and just how well Borderlands 2 does difficulty scaling and power fantasy. So, on initial playthrough, you really can make almost anything work, and I do mean that. Element matching on normal, while it definitely speeds up kills on enemies weak to that given element, it's not really a necessity. Honestly, I picked up an unkempt Herald and a fastball early into my run, and I think I used them for the better portion of the game, regardless of the enemy I was fighting. Well, this is not a bad thing. It leaves room to explore weapon types and test builds, learn how things interact with kill skills and shields. For me, on Salvador, I learned I preferred low-capacity shotguns with fast reload to trigger money shot over and over. Speaking of things based off the skill trees, again, there is serious beauty in simplicity. While the trees grew in size, they were not overwhelming and managed to shove quite a bit of synergy in, which was just so much fun to play with. I believe in total on my first playthrough, I was able to test and make about 5 to 8 different builds that worked on Salvador, and this is a factor of normal Vault Hunter mode. Have fun and learn, because you can make nearly anything work, so it leaves plenty of room out to test whatever you want to try out. But you should pay attention to some interactions, because immediately on finishing the game, you have the option to restart with all your gear in true Vault Hunter mode. Now, I didn't do this originally because I wanted to check out the DLC, and lord, were they great and chock full of interesting weapons, shields, relics, and class mods. Of the DLCs, my favorites, and probably no surprise to anyone, would be Tina's Assault on Dragon Keep, the Captain Scarlet DLC, and I'm sorry, the dynamic between Mr. Torg and Moxie in his DLC, it is just so great. It's so freaking funny to just listen to him. All are fantastic and all 100% worth checking out. Now, the reason that's relevant to true Vault Hunter mode is, holy crap, I went in over-leveled and with slightly over-leveled gear and proceeded to get my ass kicked up and down Pandora. I could still get away with a lot, mind you, as I started to figure a few things out, but God, was it a kick in the pants wake-up call that the difficulty just got dialed up. Element matching mattered more. Synergy in builds was starting to poke at you and say, hey, you really should be taking this and paying attention to kill skills. And slag started to become far more prominent in any of my loadouts. It wasn't always necessary, but there were definitely times I needed it. Well, I wouldn't say true Vault Hunter mode is super hard once you kind of learn a few few things for it. It's definitely significantly harder than normal. Enemies are tougher, and it's making you use what you learned in normal in order to be more successful. Now, if you are a vet of BL2, I am well aware there are some early farms and DLC farms to jump your power level. I took one look at Jolt's Dude's Ultimate Salvador build and realized just how far behind I was in power. Holy shit. But to a normal player not fully confident on optimizing builds or loadouts, you will feel true Vault Hunter, and that's glorious. This game nails power fantasy and difficulty scaling in a sense. If you feel weak, there are things to do and weapons to farm in order to get you more on par. The game is slowly but surely making you learn how to survive and kill more efficiently, all the while entertaining you with a killer story. Now, after you fought your way through True Vault Hunter mode and an immense amount of satisfaction along the way, oh holy hell. Ultimate Vault Hunter mode is hard. Oh my god, I was not ready for when I jumped in straight after ending True Vault Hunter mode. Now, this is the real test. Enemies scale with you, so even if you are over leveled, joke's on you, buddy, you will always be under the bosses. Element matching and slag is a must if you have any hope of surviving, and it's amazing. Literally, the game spends 2 playthroughs slowly teaching you how everything works, how shields interact with damage, how builds are supposed to synergize, how to properly capitalize on kill skills, how to survive, and Ultimate Vault Hunter, to me, was the game saying, okay, let's see if you can use what we taught you. And oh, it's so good. And yeah, it doesn't end there. We haven't even talked about the OP levels, mainly because your boy out here struggling in OP2. Honestly, I'm realizing I have a ton of farming that I am greatly looking forward to because I want to get to OP8 and kill all the raid bosses. Yes, I know OP10 is a thing and I'm not ready yet. Also, on a side note, I've been warned that OP9 and 10, the balance gets a little wonky, and apparently some of the raid bosses have a glitch in their health, so they have like 2 times what they were supposed to have. So gonna need to do some research if I'm ever gonna take that on, but we'll go to OP8 and see what happens. Also, in just general terms, speaking of the OP levels, wow, is DigiPeak more satisfying than just a slider? I actually feel like I earned something rather than just putting the slider up to Mayhem 11, grabbing a Moxie gun, farming a Callison from Trant, a Sandhawk from Katagawa Jr., and then a Monarch from Kilovolt, and I'm pretty much good for Mayhem 11 for the most part, then just go and farm out some other odds and ends. The bottom line for the gameplay of Borderlands 2 is not only is it wildly varied and satisfying to such a degree that it just keeps you asking for more and more, and if you're not ready for the next hurdle, you can farm up weapons and gear till you are, but it also teaches you how to get there. It spends 2 full playthroughs showing you the ropes and tests you hard on the 3rd one, and if you manage to get through it, not only are you the ultimate Vault Hunter, but you are ready for the peak of power. God, I'm addicted and desperately trying to get to OP3, but I got some serious farming ahead of me, and I can't wait. Oh, and speaking of the farming. Okay, so let's recap. Post main story, you have True Vault Hunter mode, scaling up the difficulty and gear levels, Ultimate Vault Hunter mode, another jump in difficulty and learning curve, and now the enemies scale with you rather than allowing you to overlevel and smash through the story. OP 1 through 10, each concurrent level of OP requiring a degree of farming and trial and error in order to learn what's working and what isn't. Or, you know, you could just watch guides, but I am a masochist and I will figure it out myself. Eventually. Speaking of the farming, an endless amount of dedicated drops, world drops, and other non-legendary items to try and collect in order to feed your power and make fighting and surviving easier. In which, again, keeping with the theme of the first game, the legendaries are actually legendary, even up to the higher levels of Endgame, and do still feel special and satisfying to actually farm out and get. Honestly, I'm starting to like Borderlands 1 and 2 for being more stingy on legendaries because they actually feel like an accomplishment, and this isn't even taking into account pearlescence or effervescence. I've only seen one. I finally got a Tunguska. Thank you, Snowman. But yeah, I haven't even seen the other 2 rarities, so I can't imagine what those are gonna feel like when I finally get one. Also, 6 freaking Vault Hunters, all with wildly different playstyles that you can try out. Personally, Salvador, Maya, and Zero are the ones I've given a shot first, but I am dying to try Krieg out, cause who the hell doesn't want to be a psycho and chuck buzz axes at everyone in sight? And there's 7 raid bosses as the pinnacle of Endgame, literally meant to be taken out with a team, but can be soloed if you have the right farms and proper builds. Allegiance runs, melee only runs, modded runs, you name it. Borderlands 2 is literally infinitely replayable. to the right person. Okay, listen, I'm not ignorant of the fact that endless hours of farming, grinding out specific part combos on weapons, and chucking hours upon hours into doing so just to reach the end game with no guarantee you are even strong enough to beat it in the first place is going to appeal to everybody. Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot of time. It's a lot of learning and even more farming. And for someone like me, I live for this type of experience. Hell, I'm a RuneScape player for life since I was 10 years old, and a good long grind is just something I heavily enjoy. But I do get there are a lot of people out there who just can't stand that. But even then, there is 3 full playthroughs to get through, even if you just want to hit max level and experience a full build with no aspirations of taking on DigiPeak or taking on any of the raid bosses. There is plenty to do for someone who doesn't want to spend hours of their life farming out perfect parted guns. So to the right type of player, Borderlands 2 in terms of its replay value is nearly infinite. I can already see myself chucking hundreds upon hundreds upon hundreds of hours into the game because it's everything I love to do. But to the wrong person, maybe you only get a few playthroughs on a few Vault Hunters, but even still, I'd say that's a win for the game as a whole. So, is Borderlands 2 worth $19.99? Yes, 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 and yes. Like, I don't even think it's a debate here. For one, unless you're me and you're intentionally trying to buy the games at list price, you are more than likely not going to pay $19.99 for it. Hell, it was on sale for $2.99 a few weeks ago, so yeah, there's that. And don't be me. I buy the games at list price because it helps me keep myself level when I'm doing these videos. But anyway, the point is BL2 is worth every penny. Personally, for me, I spent $19.99 on Borderlands 2, and at time of recording, I have thoroughly enjoyed the game for 112 hours. Yeah, I'm not even kidding on that one. I started 2 weeks ago, and yeah, let's just say it's been eat, work, Borderlands 2, repeat. Anyway, with 112 hours of magnificent enjoyment under my belt, that leaves us with a final score of 18 cents per hour of enjoyment. Heckin' yeah, bud! Seriously, if you haven't already and think the game would be right up your alley, I strongly urge you to play it. If you get the chance, the Handsome Collection goes on sale every month or so, which will get you the first and second game with all the DLC, and I can wholeheartedly say that is more than worth the price. I'm stunned it took me this long to try this, because God, I've been missing out. The only unforeseen consequence that I really wasn't expecting was I'm gonna need to play through 3 again because I have a feeling my opinion on it is going to wildly change, so there's that. And on top of it, I got 2 more games in the franchise left until they release Borderlands 4, and God, can I not wait for that. Really, I'm looking forward to what the series has in store next for us. Well, that's about it from me. If you enjoyed, it would be very much appreciated if you would like the video, but don't feel any pressure. Or if you think I left something major out, tell me down below. I'd love to hear it. I tried to condense this as best as I could, or the video would have been an hour long, so I needed to trim the fat, so to speak. Anyway, I'm gonna need to take a little bit of a break from Borderlands. Borderlands 2 is gonna eat my life for the next couple of weeks, but what's the next game we're gonna try? Ooh, that looks cool. Anyway, see ya!